Bienvenidos to Season 3 of Humans in Accounting podcast. In a world full of AI, automation, and endless workflows, we pause for a moment to focus on the real humans behind the numbers. Founders, leaders, humans share their journey, what drives them, and the moments that shape their path. Because behind every balance sheet, there's always a story worth telling. Humans in Accounting is brought to you by South Offices. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Humans in Accounting, where leaders, humans, people share their story behind their spreadsheets. I'm Alex Roman, and this podcast is brought to you by these guys, South Offices, really cool company that they're connecting accounting talent across borders. Today, I have a special guest, Josh Schneider. Josh is the CEO at Multiply Advisors. He's an author. He's a speaker at events, and he's a great guy that I met, I don't know, over a year ago in Miami or North Miami. Josh, welcome to Humans in Accounting. I'm happy we're doing this together.
Alex, the pleasure is all mine.
I actually know that the pleasure it's not all yours. There's also some pleasure.
Mixed pleasure.
Yeah, it's a mixed pleasure. No, seriously, I'm happy. Yeah, we met like maybe 450 days ago. I mean, that's my guess. Maybe that's not
Apparently you're counting.
Apparently, I'm counting, but yeah, I know that for sure it was a reframe in Miami, and then we continue because whenever I travel, I try to take advantage.
Then we saw
of
each
the
other
trip.
in Greenville. Then we saw each other in Vegas.
In Vegas, right?
3 weeks of just hanging out together right out the gate.
Exactly. So yeah, that was a cool way just to meet in person for the first time, and then yes, we even worked together, and we've been in touch since then.
South Offices,
And I'm
yep.
always happy. I'm always happy when I see you in events. So yes, thank you so much for doing this and being part of Humans in Accounting. I wanna tell the audience and know a little bit more about you. I have so many questions, but let's start from the beginning. I know that the Multiply Advisors has already now a few years, but I want to know a little bit more about your story, how you ended up in accounting, and how you ended up in this industry. Yeah.
Well, I picked accounting in school because one of my friends said, if you pick accounting, they'll try to hire you in the fall of your senior year, and you'll also get a signing bonus. And those felt like two good things. I was like, I like numbers, I like business. So I picked accounting, and within 2 years, I left the CPA firm. I just absolutely despised my experience. Granted, I was on the audit side, and kind of haphazardly, accidentally started a journey as an entrepreneur. So been on an entrepreneurial journey for over 15 years, had that typical struggle story of, living in my in-laws' basement, working as a server in the restaurant while trying to keep things moving forward, and ultimately ended up with a real breakthrough year and called my accountant and said, hey, what are we going to do? And the answer was very singular. Meanwhile, my books were about 6 months behind. And in that moment, I felt just like pure betrayal. I felt, I've crossed the Sahara Desert, and this is what's waiting for me on the other end. And that business, the next year, went from 1 employee to 35 employees. And,
Whoa.
That's not the time to try to find a new accountant. That's not the time to have to figure out a real partner in systems. And, kind of going through that experience and coming out the back end of that business, it was insanely clear to me that busy entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs kind of, a lot of people are entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's a belief system. It's a way of operating. It's someone who never wants to stop building, who always, gets to one mountaintop and sees the next ones that they didn't know existed. Right. And I thought, when you look at it, tax is, whether it's a solopreneur or someone with a team, tax for an entrepreneur is typically one of the top 3 expenses on the P&L. Now, granted, it's not actually on the P&L, but in their life,
right,
tax is one of the top 3 expenses. And I thought, I just had my earning had obviously skyrocketed over the last 3, 4, 5 years. And I felt the pain of not having, a good partner. Honestly, that's why Multiply Advisors was birthed, was because I'm like, man, there's such a need here. I love entrepreneurship. I love the highs and the lows, the challenges, the impact on your family, the impact on yourself. But we say it's the best self-help course you never asked for. And so ultimately, that's why, we birthed Multiply Advisors, was to support busy entrepreneurs who wanted real support. And especially as they scaled, you already have somebody built in who says, yeah, we have capacity. Let's run with you. Let's even try to get ahead of you and make this process as easy as possible, because with growth comes insane levels of complexity.
I didn't know this, and it's great. I love the stories when CEOs, entrepreneurs said, "All right, look, this was happening to me. I saw this was an issue that I was having, so I said, all right, let's start a company so that other me's are not going to suffer what I'm having." So that's like right now. Like, do you focus on? Do you work with a specific industry, like with entrepreneurs, or how? Do you work with a specific niche, for instance?
We don't have like a specific industry or set of industries that we focus on. Our focus more so falls into kind of like sub $10 million businesses where there's a kind of we say a tightly held group of owners or people who are really in the day-to-day operating, meaning like this business is still their baby. It's less of from afar, I'm not interested. And then we certainly have a sector of our clients that are high net wealth and really need that advisory on tax across their investments or across their portfolio, or as they look to expand, diversify, tax implications, obviously, um, create a lot of impact in that regard.
Right, perfect. That's great. Let me go back a little bit because I know you wrote 3 books. Am I correct?
3 books. Yeah. Like, we
Three.
wrote 3 books. They're centered more around employee engagement and culture. Thankfully,
Mhm.
my mom bought 100 copies of one of them. So, by no means bestsellers, but there's always something powerful in taking your thoughts at a season of life and capturing them. My first one was actually written right around, I think I was 26. And it was around that time that I was exiting the CPA firm and really felt like I had developed a lot of clarity around the fact that work should be meaningful, that how you treat your people indicates, how they show up every day. And so, it's funny because from time to time I will crack open that book and I'll be like, what's happened in the last 15 years? Like, it was so clear to you back then, how things should be. But yeah, I think, I really think of them as a great little capsule of like how I viewed the world, how I viewed work at that period of time. So I'd say I've probably sold 2,000 copies of my best, the Josh Schneider bestseller, but by no means did we hit any lists with those books.
No, but that's, I mean, I've seen lately, I'm a huge fan. I'm going to tell the audience and people in the future watching this somewhere or maybe listening or doing whatever you guys are doing. Josh is, I don't know, lately I've been saying that you're doing like really cool. And when I say really cool, what I mean is really cool videos. And you always have, I don't know, a message and stuff that I find like super interesting, which by the way, I don't know when was it, probably last week or last month, but I saw this one that you were saying something that I kept, I mean, it's so true that sometimes we are kind of afraid. Well, you said it much better than what I'm gonna say now, but you'll see what you said, that sometimes we're kind of afraid of achieving like what we really want. So we kind of sabotage ourselves. And maybe we're just afraid that if we do everything as we are planning, we're actually gonna get there. Again, you use less words, but that you got a message and
Yeah.
I got it. It was super interesting.
Well, let's not forget there's hundreds of hours of content being recorded on our end, and you get to
Hmm.
see the best pieces. But maybe, fear of failure is something that everyone's aware of. In being an entrepreneur and working with, hundreds of entrepreneurs, what I've realized is that the fear of failure is actually the thing we think we have, but it's the fear of success. And a lot
Right.
of people aren't like, we're not even myself for many years, wasn't attuned to the fact that the fear of what if I actually became the person or had the organization that I believed it could be. And when we tap into that, that's actually like a way more terrifying realization than like, what if I fail? What if I fail and go backwards and end up in my in-laws basement again, right? Like, as horrible as that would be, I can still conceptualize what that would look like. But if I truly became the person that, like, deep down in, I know I'm capable of, that means the world knows me in a different way. That means, like, I don't even fully know what that means, because that
Right.
unknown is actually, I think, way more terrifying. And I think in a beautiful way, our bodies and our mind are designed to keep us safe, right? When you're on a ledge, when you're in a physically endangering position, our whole ecosystem is designed for safety, where entrepreneurship puts us to that ledge of who we are as a person. And you're facing those types of things of like, what if I actually overcame how I feel and I punched through this wall and I became the person that I know I'm capable of? And I think that's a way more terrifying realization than what if I actually fail.
I agree so much with that, and I feel that that's something that everyone, well, maybe I'm not right, but I feel that that's something that somehow everyone feels deep down.
Or it's in there,
So
right? It's in the operating system, but I think a lot of us don't have awareness or even full awareness of that. And, so even part of our journey of creating content, we believe in the idea of, document, don't create. Like you said, the content's cool. Well, that's because I'm not talking about tax tips all the time. As important and informative as those are, we know the journey of entrepreneurship is really about two journeys. It's about the journey between here and here, but also, maybe even more importantly, the journey from here to here, the head to the heart. And the Heart Math Institute has found that there's actually more signals being sent from the heart to the brain and the rest of the body than there are from the brain to our heart and the rest of the body. And so really, like, how we feel drives a lot of what we do and how we think and how we overcome. So yes, we support entrepreneurs in a very tactical way, tax and accounting, but like, we also have coaching programs, because like that's the P&L is a story
right.
of an indication of the organization. The leader of the organization is the person, the most powerful force. And when we can help support there, I think that's what really creates the unlock in their business, but also in their life. Because one of the things successful entrepreneurs run into is now their personal life, their family life, their personal health, like those things start taking major hits. And, to find the right rhythm, like, the idea of balance to me makes no sense. I don't know how we find balance. If three good things happen in a week, do I have to wait for three bad things to happen? Like, is that what balance? Like, it's about finding a successful rhythm, because when a rhythm is repeatable, people in my life, myself and my business, can therefore know what to expect. And then I also develop a cadence to that. So that way I'm also hopefully building the thing that I want in all areas of my life.
Josh, I feel so identified with what you've said, like basically how we act, and it defines, yeah, who we are. I know it also defines a lot about our culture, the culture of each company. For us, this is something that we are working and we pay a lot of attention here at South Offices. But I want to know a little bit more about your culture at Multiply Advisors. What do you do? Is this something that you're, I guess, paying attention, or what are the things that defines the culture at Multiply Advisors?
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably depends on what week, what day, what month you
Right.
ask me. I think, when you look at like Deloitte Human Capital report, uh, I think the number one thing CEOs say is like, it's our people. You ask somebody like, what makes you different? Like, it's our people. So there's like knowing that, then there's having intention about it, but then there's also like successfully having a great culture. And that can feel differently, especially in a highly technical industry where our clients demand, excellent tax returns, books done in a specific way, reports that they absorb, not necessarily that someone else may want. It's sometimes hard to give a binary answer, but the things that I focus on, or maybe if you were to say like, what's one of the aspects of our culture, I would say it's a culture that's, and actually one of the team members said this, there's high expectation, there's high standard, but there's also high grace. And I'm very big on like, we are humans. We're going to make mistakes. But if it's like, why did we make a mistake? I want to know what the thinking was, because if we can correct the thinking, now we've helped somebody grow and improve. And so we very much focus on that. And then the other component that I'd say we focus on is kind of like the individual's growth. For quite a few years, I ran a company called the Human Engagement Institute. And there's a lot of study and research around employee engagement. But to me, that kind of looks at the human as they enter the workforce, they enter their workday, as opposed to like what actually engages a human being as a whole. And one of the beliefs we have is that life is here for us to see what we can do. And life is designed for us to have, do, and be more. Growth is just it's a byproduct of existence. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And so for us, a massive component is a focus on growth. And that may mean like, we have stipends where it's like, if you want to take a cooking class, like take a cooking class. Like, I want your brain to be learning something new. I want it to be unfolding in a way that it's never unfolded before. Every interview that I conduct, and I still talk to 100% of people before they come into the organization, I say, maybe you've heard a CEO before say, it's my responsibility to put food on the table for every person who works for me. And I actually don't resonate with that. I think it's every individual's responsibility to put food on their table. However, I say if you're going to join here, it's my responsibility to create an environment for you to grow, meaning the tasks that you're going to be doing on day one. I hope we've created an environment where in year two, you're not doing the exact same tasks. And that may mean a bookkeeper is presenting advisory opportunities, or they've started to learn and develop a skill in FP&A where they're starting to think about the company. I believe if you've spent 4 or 5 hours in a company's books, you have some aspect of an emotional thread to pull on. It may not be a binary numbers driven thread, but you've just focused on this organization for a period of time. Somewhere in your ecosystem, in your body, in your brain, in your heart, you feel something, you're curious about something. And, if we can pull that thread, and so, I could probably talk for another 25 minutes about things that I believe or things that we try to do, but, a high expectation, high grace environment, but also an environment where we're hopefully teaching people how to grow, like where to grow, understanding that growth as a human actually positively influences their growth as an employee, but then realizing that like curiosity and learning how to pull threads of curiosity actually makes you a way better employee, especially in this industry where people, clients or the marketplace as a whole can kind of view us as that backseat person who's just recording history, instead of what people actually want is somebody who's in the passenger seat with them pointing the way ahead.
Right, right. I mean, what you said, and maybe that's why we share. I mean, it super resonates with me, and it's what we are doing here at South Office as well. However, it kept me. I was just thinking, do you think this is something that happens like to all human beings, or maybe there are some other people that feel comfortable just, I mean, they would be happy doing the same work like in 5 years, and they're super comfortable doing that thing, and they know that they're good at doing that thing, and they don't really want to grow. They have maybe some other things that for them
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
are more important.
I'll take a step back too and preface, like, I have a personal belief that like I don't care what your passport says, meaning like I don't care what your country of origination is, right? Like we're all equal in the human race.
Right.
And obviously different cultures, whether it's Argentina, whether it's the Philippines, India, South Africa, they bring with them a set of kind of cultural norms.
Right.
What we also know about human beings is that 60% of who we are is the DNA inside our body and the environment that we grew up in. And now that means the family environment, the household environment, and the country environment. And so those things absolutely influence how we are there's two things that create an environment for you to have enough impetus, catalyst, desire to change. And that's usually the two things are: number one, you've had such a negative, searing experience, meaning maybe you grew up in like abject poverty and you said, I'm never going to, my family, myself is never going to experience this. That's a
Right.
strong enough emotional trigger that says, I must change. The other component is I have such a clear picture of what I want or what I desire or what I want to build that, again, I'm able to now override that kind of 60% of what's driving the ship. And so, to answer your specific question of like, a lot of people think like, okay, this is good. This is my routine. I'm comfortable here. In a lot of ways, it's a pattern. It's a pattern of life, a pattern of what they grew up in. The other component is, if you grew up in a household where, let's say, your parents combined made, 50 grand a year,
Right.
and all of a sudden at an early stage in your career, you're making 60, you've already surpassed what you grew up in. Now, there's not a piece of mail or an email that arrives and says like, time for you to reassess. But subconsciously, like there's a part of you that's like, I've already arrived. I've already made it. And so when those components happen, it's like, it can be a struggle to help pull somebody up. Steve Wynn, the founder of Wynn Casinos, said, when you do something for somebody that they cannot do for themselves, you hit the bullseye in human relations. And so I don't think there's a really clean answer maybe to what you're asking, but it's our belief that if we can help somebody identify who they are, what they love, move them from a place where their work is okay to a place where their work actually feeds who they are in their soul as a human. If we can do that for them, we have been able to help someone find their spark, find a zest, a passion for life. A word that I absolutely love is this word Meraki. And it's a Greek term that means soul, love, passion. And when I think of that word, I think of like a chef. When you look at a restaurant, they're usually open from the hours of like 5 to 9 p.m. and things get busy. But that chef has been in the restaurant since 10 a.m., noon, and they have been preparing for the restaurant to open. How they cut the carrots, how they prepare the items, the precision required. That's Meraki. That's love. That's zest. That's passion. And, you've tasted the exact same dish at two different places, and you can tell one where there was not a lot of love and passion delivered in that dish. And you can taste another one where it causes you to set down your fork and just be like, what is happening right here? And so I think, there are a group of people that just think they don't want to grow, but I think it's, in a lot of cases, that person's just not understood that life and work could give them something more. And when you look at the numbers of the number of hours that we work in our life, it's practically the number one thing that we do. Number one, number two, sleeping is in that category. And so when we sleep, it's to give something to our life. So work should not be something that just takes from us. And yes, there's a money component to it, but there's got to be more ROI that feeds us. And I'll finish, with this analogy. Think of like an ice cube tray. You fill up the water, and as one overflows, it fills other areas of life. And you can have a highly satisfying family life, love being involved in your kids, but like, you're telling me that 40 to 50 hours of your week should drain your soul? Like, if those 40 to 50 hours gave you a little something, you're a better parent, a better spouse, a better player on the football pitch on your Sunday evening league, right? Like,
Right.
these things are not just, we're not just like people and employees, we're humans. And when we can feed the human as a whole, that's when we give them something. And I think work is a vehicle to be able to also make people's life a little bit better.
Oh, Josh, you said so many things that I don't know. It's like you first. Thank you for at least telling me this new favorite word, Meraki. You said
Meraki. Yeah.
Meraki.
MER.
Meraki. Yes, you're so right. And then I don't know. It feels like what you're describing is conversations that we have here. Usually, we don't talk in humans in accounting anything about what we do. But since you're just saying or putting the words
Yeah.
together in like super cool way, and it describes a little bit why we are doing what we are doing in South offices, I just have to say it because for us, I feel the same way. Like we spend, as you said, like a really big percentage of our time working
Yeah.
just
Yes.
because we live in a world where we are supposed to work and we gotta do this because there is an important component of money and all that. But for me, it's super, super important that the people, even from my team or people that we can get just to work with the clients, are actually enjoying that part of those many hours that they decide just to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whenever, I don't know, sometimes I hear like a friend or someone who I'm just having a beer with them and they say, you know what, I hate my job, I hate my boss, I hate my life. And I go like, I mean, you got to do something. Let me see how I can help you. Probably I can't, but I feel like, all right, definitely. I mean, you're doing that for 8 hours every single day.
And you
Maybe
hate
you
it?
need just, and you hate it. Yeah, definitely change that. So that's why we do what we do here at South Offices. And I think it's super aligned with what you've said. And then lastly, you mentioned about this restaurant and that analogy of the one where you can feel the passion and the other one where they didn't do that. You already know me. You know that for me, it's I don't know. Humor is a really important part of life. Family, friends, it's also, but food, it's also another one. And I don't want you to leave this episode of Humans in Accounting without asking you this question. So I'll go ahead and do it. Josh, I actually don't know what's your favorite food.
That's a tough. Obviously, that's a tough question, right? I think if there was one food that I would not want to go the rest of my life without, it's for sure pizza. I worked in a pizza shop for a couple of years while I was in college, and you know, a pepperoni pizza with a little extra cheese, a little extra pepperoni left in the heater for just couple minutes extra. You could put together any creation. It's almost nothing's better than that. I think if there was one food that I crave the most and probably would be maybe my favorite would be like Greek or Mediterranean food. Little fun fact is I'm actually a quarter Arabic. My grandfather was Arabic. And so growing up, this was what was on the table all the time. And so obviously I don't represent physically any of that heritage, but I think my palate from day one of living was just very engineered, to taste these foods and love it. And so I find myself sometimes getting very bored with American cuisine. And so when I do, I'm like, oh, yeah, because you haven't had something that's fun and brings, like za'atar, like the seasoning in za'atar is just like, it could just makes your life better, And so like, let's bring a little bit of that into our life. So
Hold on.
binary
So
answer. Yeah.
yes, I just need just to because I'm asking each guest here at Humans in Accounting what's their favorite food, and I just put one vote to whatever the guest tells
Greek,
me.
Mediterranean, whatever you want to call it.
Greek Mediterranean food. Okay, we already have a few votes. My idea is just to publish the ranking. I'm pretty sure that the top three must be without counting your vote because you didn't vote for pizza. It's pizza, sushi, and Mexican food. I'm pretty sure those are the top three
Huh.
so far. And Mediterranean food, we might have already a few votes for that one. So I'll keep you posted when I post the updated ranking. All right.
Feels like you're interviewing predominantly Americans with those answers.
I am I am actually. So all right. Let me ask you just two more questions before I'll let you go. First, I wanna. The truth is that you already gave so much advice in this call and this podcast we're having. But let me phrase it this way. Let's talk to the audience. Maybe someone in the future is watching and it's considering just quitting their job and opening their accounting firm. Why not?
Yeah.
Because they said, "Hey, I think now what is the timing? What's one piece of advice you can give them, someone who's trying just to go and start their own accounting firm?"
Uh, I'm gonna have two. Number one is people think they have to end something to begin something, and what life teaches you is that how you end one season determines how you begin the next. Sometimes people are like, well, maybe it's a silly example, but like, I can't get to building my website. Like, I gotta be done and then I'll build my website. And it's like, I laugh in the inside thinking like, you think once you get to the entrepreneurial side of things that you're going to have more time because you're not. In fact, you're going to be flooded with more options, more choices. There's a truth of life that constraint actually produces, in a lot of ways, the best, most creative outcomes. And so for me, someone who's considering making that transition, if it's like, I got to build my website, or I got to go find 3 clients, or I got to like figure out my tech stack, you got to figure out how to use nights and weekends or margin moments to get those things done. I could talk for 10 more minutes, but you have to realize that constraint is actually the most beneficial tool that you have to get the most appropriate things done in the time frame given. Because when you get to the other side, there's unlimited, like, how do I grow? Do I do ads? Do I do content? Do I go to networking events? It's like there's never an end of choices. So that's number one. Number two is you have to commit to being the metronome. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times when you start something, you have a plan, whether it's on paper or it's in your head. And inevitably, when you begin a journey towards a plan, you begin taking a step towards a plan, environment and circumstance and outcome is going to influence how you think and feel about whether that's a good plan or a bad plan. Now,
Exactly.
obviously, we have to have some awareness to, like, I'm running into this brick wall. Maybe if I just go a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. But what happens is, and we could use it very, very specifically around money, like, well, this isn't working. I'm running out of money, so I have to change what I'm doing. And the idea of the metronome is that it doesn't care the noise in the room. It doesn't care the chaos that's going on around it. It has no care for anything other than the rhythm and the beat and the thing that it must do. And I think a lot of times, especially if we're talking about young entrepreneurs, you have to figure out how to stay on beat with the things that you must do to be successful, regardless of what you're feeling, regardless of what your bank account is saying, regardless of what others might be trying to get in your head. Because most people, if they're successful in the industry, okay, but like, if it's your family, like, they're just speaking through the lens of how they view life. And so they're just transferring their thoughts and their fears onto you. And so you must learn to operate like the metronome, make the decisions, execute on the decisions. And regardless of what environment and circumstances is trying to give you feedback on, you must keep executing on those things.
Josh, that's solid advice. Thank you for that. I'm sure people from the future are listening to this, and now
Those are
they
my
just
favorite people from the future.
yes, I'm sure they're listening or watching this, and then now they're probably saying as I'm speaking, "Hey, I want to talk with Josh. I need just to talk with Josh. I'm that entrepreneur who's having all these issues that Josh is actually saying. How can I talk with him? I want just to work with multiply advisors. What's a good way just to reach out to you, Josh?
I mean, I think one of the easiest ways is to slide in those DMs, anybody who's creating anyone who's creating content, when you get a comment in your DMs, you're like, try to hit me up on email. Like, good luck. Like, you're one of 700 people trying to get my attention. Like, go where my attention is, And so for sure, slide in the DMs. I mean, obviously you can look us up and, send an email in, but, interacting on Instagram for sure is, the best way.
Okay, for sure. I'll make sure when we publish this episode, I'll just leave a link of Multiply Advisors, and also, yeah, your LinkedIn and all your social media. Josh, I'm super happy we made this episode. Thank you so much for being part. And when will I see you again? Well, now probably my next event is going to be directly on for Intuit Connect.
Yep.
Are you planning on going to events in the
A hundred.
next?
100. Yeah, as you're aware, life when you have a brand new baby, right, can get a little, so definitely taking the summer off, not traveling anywhere to events there, but once we hit the fall, into it's always top on the list. It's good to connect with people and get some good elbow time with people. So I'll for sure 100% see you there.
Perfect. I'll see you there, Josh. Thank you so much for being part in Humans in Accounting, and see you soon. All right.
Thanks, Alex.